Starting in July, you may be one of the millions of workers entitled to overtime pay, even if you're a salaried employee.
We're in July, and these rules are here. Yes, new overtime rules are now in effect, even if you are a salaried employee, except if you live in the state of Texas. So I told you in that video back in May, the Department of Labor made the biggest change in decades to overtime rules and which employees are now required under federal law to be paid time and a half for working more than 40 hours a week. The Labor Department did that under the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. Obviously, the salary thresholds have been updated multiple times since 1938. The most recent was back in 2019. Now, let me talk about what's happening in Texas for just a second. The state sued the Biden administration to put a stop to these new overtime rules, arguing they would harm the state as an employer. And a Texas federal judge said, okay, and granted a temporary injunction to pause these overtime rules from taking effect, but only in the state of Texas. That order does not extend to the rest of the country. But this case and several others are still ongoing, so what I'm about to tell you may still be stopped by the courts. But in the meantime, let me explain these new rules that your employer does have to follow, at least outside of Texas. So as of July 1st, salaried workers earning less than $43,888 a year qualify for time and a half pay if they work more than 40 hours a week. That's up from the ceiling of $35,568 a year. Then it increases again on January 1st of 2025. The threshold for salaried employees working more than 40 hours a week, making less than $58,656 a year, will be entitled to overtime pay of time and a half. And after that, this new rule says the salary thresholds will be revisited every 3 years and will be adjusted based on current wage data. Now, there are definitely salaried employees who are absolutely not eligible for overtime. Those employees are called exempt. Now, obviously, if your salary is more than $43,888, you would likely fall into what's called the white-collar exemption that applies to executive, administrative, or professional employees. You do not qualify for overtime pay. Certain computer employees, teachers, and outside sales employees are also in that exempt category. And the law also exempts what are called highly compensated employees from receiving overtime pay. To be classified as a highly compensated employee, you have to meet all 3 requirements. 1, you must have a primary duty performing office or non-manual work. 2, you must customarily and regularly perform at least 1 executive, administrative, or professional duty. That includes the power to hire and fire others. And 3, this is a change that just happened as of July 1st. Your annual salary is more than $132,964 a year. Then on January 1st of 2025, that salary threshold increases again to $151,164 a year. Previously, the threshold was $107,432 a year. Now, these are now the new federal standards for overtime in this country, again, except in the state of Texas. But these rules do not stop a state from establishing more protective overtime standards. So if a state is more generous with its overtime requirements and it benefits the workers, then that standard trumps this new federal one. So if you want to read more about these overtime changes, I'm going to email it out to you tonight in my News Girl News Roundup email, so make sure you sign yourself up.